know your name, I swear I do. It's on the tip of my tongue. Sorry, what did you say? And I've known you for how long? Your face is so familiar, but no name comes to mind. Please, can you remind me if you'll be so kind? Staring out into space, asking God to hear my case. Trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last?
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host and founder, Lori LeBay. For those of you that are new to our show, before we get started today, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about us because we're always getting new listeners. Bottom line, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. We're also known as a media outlet for dementia. We truly believe that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having these everyday conversations about dementia, that we're going to be able to remove the stigmas attached to memory loss and help those living with the disease continue to live purpose-filled lives. At our core, we believe collaboration is the only way we're going to win this battle, and I know that's working thanks to all of you. You see, your likes, your clicks, and your shares of all of our resources, our radio page, our Alzheimer Speaks website, our Dementia Chats, our blog, our YouTube, our Facebook pages, that you are sharing with people have had a huge impact. And because of you sharing our content with your spheres, you got us named as the #1 influencer online regarding Alzheimer's, according to ShareCare and Dr. Oz. And also, as an architect of change, we were recognized by Maria Shriver. And that wouldn't have happened without you. So I appreciate you sharing our content, because Alzheimer's Speaks content isn't just about us. It's about everybody. We want to raise everyone's voice, from those living with the disease to those caring for people with the disease, both families and professionals, to authors, musicians, movie directors, researchers, advocates. Everybody's voice is extremely important, and we want to make sure that it's heard. And so, maybe you could be our next guest. And if you are passionate about the disease, please reach out to me at Lori LeBay, or Lori, I should say, Lori at alzheimerspeaks.com, or you can just go to alzheimerspeaks.com. There's a big contact button you can click on to communicate with me. I also want to just say we just got back from our dementia-friendly cruise, which was just a fabulous, fabulous trip. We left on the 11th, came back on the 18th, and we had a wonderful time in the Caribbean. Lots of learning, lots of laughter, and some really tight bonds were built. So I have to thank my team. Harry Urban, Michael Ellenbogen, Lori Shear, and Mary Reed, all living with dementia, who spoke and just gave us such great insights. And our professional team was Cindy Lazinski and Becky Watson. And then myself, again, we just really, really enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. And it wouldn't have happened without our sponsors. Being Alzheimer Speaks, of course, Elite Cruises and Vacations, the Purple Angel. We also had our gold sponsors were the American Senior Magazine, Free to Go Mobility, Brightview Senior Living, who contributed Cruising Through Caregiving by Jennifer Fitzpatrick, which was just a fabulous, fabulous book. We had Music with Wellness and the Dementia-Friendly Communities of Northern Colorado. Anita Jader, who is a photographer, and then John Hopkins also gave us the 36-hour day and a loving approach to dementia care as giveaways. Some of our silver sponsors were Art Kits, the Dementia Handbook, by Judy Cornish with the Dawn program. Calendar cards, which also gives us the Memory Cafe directory and memory joggers. The Little Book of Alzheimer's Care. Care to Plan, which is a brand new dementia resource directory. Footprint ID, and Trin Rose with her book 15 Minutes of Fame. Again, just a fabulous time that we had on this cruise. I'm first going to introduce to you today Harry Urban, who again is living with dementia and went on our cruise, and he's going to be my co-host. Welcome, Harry. How are you today? Harry, are you there? Did we lose you? Let me see. Let's try again. Harry, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Oh, good. I'm still trying to climb down off of this cloud I've been on for the past 7 days. I mean, it was just simply amazing. A lifetime dream of mine came true.
Well, good. Well, I think you made a lot of dreams come true by being on the cruise and the connections you made and the hope you gave. So thank you so much, Harry. Now today, our guest is Jon Braddock, and he is an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and the founder and CEO of My Life and Wishes. And I love this concept because My Life and Wishes is really about education, and it's a digital planning platform with a mission to help at least 1 million families become thoughtfully prepared for the inevitable, our own death. And I think this is a much needed conversation. And it looks like Jon's come up with a great tool to help us maybe remove the fear and move forward with living well and living smartly through all of our life and all the way till the end. So welcome, Jon. How are you today?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you, Lori. How are you?
Doing very good. Now, before we get started with our line of questions, I always ask our guests if by chance they've been touched by friends or family or loved ones with dementia. Do you know of anyone who's living with dementia or who has lived with dementia in your circle?
Well, within my circle, we actually have my mother-in-law now, who is just starting down that slippery slope.
Okay. So yeah, that is definitely a process. Does she live close to you, or?
She does. She actually, we just 2.5 weeks ago moved her into an assisted living facility. Very nice, which will be able to, assist her with a lot of the day-to-day things that unfortunately, since my father-in-law had passed away a few years ago, that she can't remember, whether or not she had breakfast or whether or not she took her medications and those kind of things. So, but yes, it's basically about 2 miles up the street from us. So very close.
Nice. That's great. Well, Jon, I want to ask, what made you decide to create this platform, My Life and Wishes?
Well, 4 years ago, my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly on a beautiful Labor Day morning. It happened to be his 63rd wedding anniversary. And he passed away at home. And my wife and I were thrust into something that we had never experienced. And that was the death of someone very close, having to sort through everything initially from what funeral home he should be taken to outlining funeral arrangements, burial, and more so the after that first 3 to 4 day process of putting a loved one to rest, and that is locating all the documents and critical information within his life. And just at a very high level, the challenges we had were we found safe deposit box keys, but had no idea as to what financial institutions they were held. Much to our surprise, they were not at the bank where he banked. And that set us off on a scavenger hunt of trying to track down the financial institution, which took us about 2 weeks. It ended up being on the other side of the city, and we had no idea why it was even there. And then tracking down the life insurance policies that were actually in force, locating a copy of the will, identifying where he had kept proof of ownership documentation for the home. And he also happened to have been an IBM guy from way back, so he was pretty proficient on the computer and did a tremendous amount on the computer, such as online bill pay and multiple accounts whereby he didn't receive bills and such in the mail. And this ongoing scavenger hunt of trying to track everything down and sort things out from my mother-in-law, who hadn't written a check or paid a bill in 63 years, much less even knew how to turn on a computer, was kind of a nightmare that lasted for us in excess of 10 months. And the realization that I had was, first, thanks, Ted, for not sharing any of this information with anybody. And then my second thought was, my gosh, if something happened to either myself or, God forbid, Michelle and I at the same time, our children, who are all college age and just passed, would have no idea where anything was located. And so as I talked to people, everyone wanted to tell me their story when their father had passed away or a brother had died or someone else and they had been involved. And the stories were all the same. And it was like, people have been here for 300,000 years. And as near as I can figure, based on my own statistics, 1 out of 1 of us are going to die. Yet it's the only thing that we don't actually plan for or talk about. And it's kind of, why is that? There has to be an easier way. Because when I grew up in the 60s and 70s in a small town in New Jersey, when someone passed away, it really wasn't that difficult to close out all the final affairs. Usually people kept a file drawer in a desk at home somewhere that had the important documents in it. The town I grew up in had one bank, which was right up the street. And any ongoing obligations, such as debts and bills, would show up in the physical mailbox out front of the house sometime in the next 30 to 60 days. But today it's so different. While technology has made our lives so simple, it's made cleaning things up and closing things out increasingly difficult for those who are left behind. And so I started with an organizer just of everything we went through, listing out, everything from, do you have a will? Yes. Where can we find it? Is there a safe deposit box? Where's the key? At what financial institution is it located? List out all the checking accounts, savings accounts. Where are the proof of ownership documentations located? What insurance policies are actually enforced? Because someone's going to have to pay for my funeral. And then for I'm 55 and I'm very much into technology. I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 online digital presences out there between LinkedIn, Facebook, email, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and the list goes on and on, Facebook, Twitter. And someone is going to need to know how to access that information and shut them off. And quite frankly, there's days that at 55, I have trouble remembering everything that I have or where things are located. And if I'm having a difficult time, remembering where they are, locating them or tracking them down, my family will never be able to find everything.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when you were listing that off. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't remember my passwords half the time. I have to reset them, and because different ones change at different times, and yeah, and you forget how many places you really are, because you don't use them all that often, and others you use really frequently. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and like you said, trying to be able to put the jigsaw puzzle together is not always an easy feat to be able to do. So, I think this idea of helping people have this conversation, because I don't know, it always amazes me how everybody thinks if they don't talk about it, it's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. But to me, it's just about smart living. People take care of this and they take care of that while they're alive, and yet it really is about, really in some ways, some of your most important decisions of how do you want to end your life? What do you want it to look like? Do you want to be cremated or not? Where do you want to be buried? Do you want life support? What does that look like? And then again, all the finances, so that it can be simple, because I think when everyone exits, most people say they don't want to be a burden. And this is a nice way to help lighten that burden, because it's difficult losing somebody, and then you put all the finances and the organization that needs to be done on top of that, and it gets difficult, more and more difficult for people to go through that process. I'm going to just call Harry in and say, Harry, have you had to go through this process with a close loved one at all, in terms of someone passing away?
Well, we did something similar with living wills and all that stuff. I mean, anybody should have all their documentation done, as far as living will, power of attorney, and all that things. But unfortunately, a lot of us don't. But what concerns me the most is, even though we have everything in order, what happened if my loved one passes before me? I would have no idea what the bills were or anything like that. That's why I'm kind of interested in this process.
Mm-hmm. Because Hazel pretty much takes care of all of that kind of stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I'm not capable of doing that anymore. So, and to be honest with you, I don't have the interest in it anymore. So, she has everything from life insurance policies and safety deposit boxes, and she knows where everything is. But if she would pass, God forbid, I would have no idea.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's pretty common, isn't it, John? Where people don't really have a clue where stuff is.
It's more common than you would think. So often in so many families, one person handles all the finances. In my family, Michelle handles all of our household finances and bills. I mean, she is the chief executive officer. She's the chief financial officer of the entire home, and I don't have a clue. And without her and I clearly having a plan, just in case, so I know where things are. I mean, I'm going to have bill collectors lined up at the door. They're going to say, you haven't paid your mortgage. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm happy to pay you. I just didn't know how. And it's very common. And in my parents' generation, who are in their 80s, this was a generation where, at least where I was growing up, that, Dad took care of everything. And this is what I saw with my father-in-law when he passed away. As I said, my mother-in-law, Marie, hadn't written a check or paid a bill in 63 years of marriage. He handled all the finances. And so she didn't have any idea what to do. And so it becomes essential that we have these kind of conversations and plans in place. You know, when someone dies, and there may be more, but this is just my oversimplification, there are a couple of very normal emotions: sadness and grief. And those are normal. And we don't want to change those because those are part of the healing process. They're necessary. But there's some emotions, I think, that aren't normal. And those are anger, frustration, confusion, and even stress. And those are brought about by people having to try and figure everything out. And it delays the natural grieving process that one goes through because they're so wrapped up in trying to figure everything out. And those are totally and completely avoidable if people would just do it. But as you say earlier, you know, people are like, well, if I don't talk about it, it won't happen. You know, in my speaking and talking with people around the country, I often ask groups of people, you know, why haven't you planned? You know, and one of the comments is someone says, well, it's bad luck. My only response to that is, yeah, living in the generation we live in today, we talk about sex all the time, but it doesn't make one pregnant.
Yeah.
Just like talking about death is not going to make us dead. You know, the other one is, oh, I have time for that. And my answer to that is, really? Wow, because I certainly don't know when I'm going to pass. You know, this is not like filing taxes. I mean, I can wait till April 15th if I wish without serious consequence because that's a date certain. But since I don't have a date certain and I don't know what my future holds, I need to do something. I need to do it now. And it doesn't have to be a Debbie Downer. You know, we're planners by nature, human beings. I mean, we plan for our wedding. We plan for the birth of our child. We plan for vacation. We plan to, you know, send our kids to college. We plan for our retirement and save all these kind of things. We plan. And the only thing I can come up with why we don't plan for our own passing is because all the other planning we do in our life. I mean, heck, I'm already planning what I'm going to have for dinner tonight and the route I'm going to take to the grocery store later this afternoon. But all those things benefit me. Planning for my own death doesn't benefit me because I'm gone. But what it does, it benefits others. And so it's truly an act of love to plan what the experience should be like for your loved ones after you're gone. Yeah. You know, as a good friend of mine, Nick, told me, he said, you know, I wish I had known Mom wanted to be cremated before I buried her. Because they didn't have the conversation. And now Nick lives with the memory of knowing that he didn't honor ultimately his mother's final wishes. And the other challenge I think there is that we need to keep in mind, those of us with larger families, Michelle and I have 6 children, we can't agree on what movie to see or where we're going to go to dinner and those kind of things. Imagine if, God forbid, I'm in a tragic accident and I'm on life support. If I don't have my wishes clearly defined with advance directives and a living will of what I want, you know, the boys are going to be more rational, I think, and they're going to say, nope, you know, Dad would want to end this. The girls, on the other hand, are going to say, no, Dad wouldn't want that, and, you know, there's a chance and everything else. And without planning, when there's multiple family members involved, it's going to become an extremely divisive time. And the last thing I want is my children being divided and fighting any more than they already do, you know, over what I would have wanted when I could have very easily just told them.
Yeah. I know with my my folks, my dad had brain cancer, my mom had dementia, and Dad said, "Oh, we just don't have that much." And I'm like, "We all have more than we think we do." And it's still discussions that you have to have. It's not just all stuff. And so they were really uncomfortable doing it. So I was married at the time, so I said, "Well, how about if Tom and I do it with you?" Because this is these are conversations we should be having. We should have powers of attorney for our kids when they turn 18, and because accidents happen, not all death is planned. Most of it's not. And it's just, to me, it's so silly that there's so much fear and so much denial, in this whole process. In telling my daughter I wanted to be cremated, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to think of you being burnt." And then I just kind of joked with her, and I said, "Honey, I've never really been small in my life, so let me be small." Let me just get down to some ashes. And then she kind of chuckled and went, "Oh, okay, Mom." But it's we need to talk about our beliefs and our wants, because it's horrible when you don't know and then you're trying to guess and you're beating yourself up for not having the conversation, like your friend. Why didn't I have that conversation? I would have honored it if I would have known. And that's not a place where any of us need to go when you're already dealing with the grief of a lot, the loss of a loved one. Then adding on the woulda, shoulda, couldas on top of all of that just makes it, I think, even more painful.
Well, and the conversation itself, Lori, doesn't have to be a Debbie Downer. So many people are like, "Oh, I don't want to upset my kids by having a conversation with them." And of course, my real quick answer is, "Oh, no, you'd rather them be really upset when you're not around anymore and trying to figure it out." But, if you clearly define your wishes, you don't have to, this doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out conversation with family members. List these things out. I want to be buried, or I want to be cremated. And here's what I want. And here's where everything is located. And here's how to find it. And here's how to access it. And here's the life insurance. And here's, the powers of attorney and all the things. And I don't care if you write it down on a legal pad with a crayon. Have it spelled out. Tuck it in the dresser drawer or somewhere. Then it becomes an easy conversation. It's like, "Hey, kid, here's the deal. I don't mean to upset you, but ultimately everyone passes away. I will die at some point. When that day comes, I want it to be easier for you. So when that happens, in my upper desk drawer, in an envelope, underneath my socks, there's an envelope. It's going to tell you everything that you're going to need to know. It's all the answers to the questions that you're going to have. What do you want for dinner?" Conversation over. It doesn't have to be huge. But, if I can pass one thing, I spent 35 years in the financial services industry before making this my purpose to make things easier, on families. And there's one thing I can pass on. If you have life insurance, make sure someone knows about it. Because over 1 billion with a B dollars of life insurance has gone unclaimed simply because beneficiaries or family members did not know it was there.
Yeah. Yeah, and how, that's just so sad, because there isn't a family who couldn't use that extra cash in some fashion. That is,
and most of us don't have, $15,000, $20,000 just, sitting around in a shoebox somewhere to cover the funeral costs of a loved one.
Well, and it is amazing how much it costs to bury somebody. It's just, and even to be able to go through that process of what would you like? Do you want a church service? Do you want a memorial? Do you, where do you want to be buried? How do you want to be buried? Even talking about the obituary, there's just so many pieces to it. When my dad died, he was a vet. And so they said, well, you'll get one flag. And my brothers and I all looked at one another going, well, I want it. And I said, well, can we get 2 more? And they said, yeah, you have to pay for it. And I said, well, that would be nice because then we don't have to fight over the remembrance of the flags for my dad, being a vet. And the only mistake they made is at the funeral, they put them all 3 out. And people were like, was he in 3 wars? And it was like, no. but so many families said, gosh, I would have liked to have gotten a flag to represent my dad, but my brother got it or my sister got it or whatever. And so that was just a simple thing that we could do by just asking a question,
right.
so that we all
those
had.
Are the things, those are the things that divide families. And fortunately, you guys asked, and and it was delivered. But so many people don't ask and they don't go through it. My mother-in-law still, to this day, 4 years later, about every couple of weeks, Michelle takes her to Mass on Sunday mornings, and Michelle comes home and says, she asked again. And I said, really? She said, yeah. You know what she asked? She wants to write the obituary again, publish it in the newspaper, because she remembered all kinds of things that we forgot to include. Because as you know, and many of your listeners know, you have to put an obituary together usually within, 72 hours or so to run.
Yep.
And it's kind of hard when you're going through the process to remember everything. And so,
yep.
And many times your children or even your grandchildren don't, know all the things you've done in your life. So by writing these things down and saying, I did this, I lived here, those kind of things, it just makes the process so much simpler.
Yeah.
I even want to write my own obituary because I want somebody to say something nice, and I know if I write it myself, it would be nice.
Well, I wrote something to read back because it's like, I got to have the last word, So I wrote something that I want read from me to, whoever shows up. And, my friends go, well, that's kind of strange. And I'm like, well, if you know me, it really isn't, So, and who knows if it'll be appropriate, because I probably should rewrite that at this point, and probably did it 10 years ago. But, it's those little things. Or when my mom died, it was really important for me to have the purple angel be part of her obituary. And they were like, well, we don't have that graphic. And I'm like, well, what would it take to get that graphic so that we can help raise awareness? And they're like, well, it wasn't that much. And I'm like, well, then I'll pay for it and let other people know it's there. And, so it's just all those, when you plan ahead, you have more time to be more thoughtful of what do you want this to look like, and what is the legacy, piece, to it. So I think it's really cool what you're doing. Planning is, I think, more critical today than it was, years ago, just because of what you're talking about. Things are all over the place, and there's such a variety of choice now, where before it used to be A to B to C to D, and now it's singing and zonging, all over the place. So, how do people use the system that you've come up with, and how do they deal with that as a family? Does somebody start out just as an individual and then share it, or is it really more of a family event?
Really, it can be done either way. Our platform has been designed as an educational tool, first and foremost, and then secondarily, a place where you can document all of your wishes. And it kind of guides you through, whereby you can list out, all your personal information, and then your financial information and where things are located, how to access them, if there's a website associated with it, if there's a username and a password, and clearly define these location of documents. It brings into play the ability to upload these documents, which I'll touch on in just a second, becomes even more critical, I think. But it guides people through. And so an individual can use a platform on their own. You can share it with a spouse or partner, as Michelle and I do. So when you log in, she's got her tab, I have my tab, and we have a shared tab where all the things are listed out, such as our final wishes. We have copies of our living will. We have copies of our power of attorney. We have copies of insurance policies in there, and all the critical documents that one would need, so that if something happened to Michelle and I tomorrow, our children could then actually access our cloud-based service, and they would have.
So that's almost like your security box that you would normally have in the bank online.
Mm-hmm. We refer to it as your own virtual vault at My Life and Wishes, and where that really, I think, beyond the fact that it's my go-to tool, so I use it a lot. I go in and out. I put new information in. As I change passwords, I log in. I change the password so it's always current. But, on the heels of some recent natural disasters, such as Hurricane Harvey and Irma, Maria, Nate, as well as the wildfires up in Northern California, millions and millions of people have lost everything. So for those of us who maybe think we're prepared, say, yes, I've got my death folder, if you will, or whatever, and it's in the desk drawer at home, everything's gone. And so by having all these wishes and things listed out in an intuitive way, which guides you through the process, and the ability to upload and store copies of all these documents, not only at the end of the day when I pass away does it make it very simple for my family, but for me, if my home burns down and I lose these documents, it's not going to take me months and months of contacting financial institutions and mortgage companies and other places to try and locate all this information, because I already have copies of all these documents.
Yeah. Well, and what a relief. Harry, would that make you feel more comfortable just knowing that you can't lose something like that?
Well, I have a couple questions. Is number one, what kind of security is this information being? Is it safe? Can somebody hack this system and take all this information and use it? That's one question. And another question I have, like a lot of my documents have to be legal documents. So they have to go through the legal process to be filed away and stuff like that. And I can see the system being very useful as an informational tool. Where does Harry have all that stuff hidden that he loves? Passwords to this and things like that. I'm not sure how deft this system is. I mean, what is this an inclusive thing that I would keep my living will? Would I keep my insurance policies? Would I keep all this stuff in? I'm assuming it's like a safe.
Right, and that's a great question, because as we designed it, and it took us over 2 years to actually build this product, I designed it with everyone in mind. And so from a security standpoint, we utilize what's called AES 256 encryption. It is military-grade encryption, which is relied on by the U.S. government and the military. So there is no stronger encryption process than the process we use. We're also a zero-knowledge company, and what zero-knowledge means is that no one at My Life and Wishes can ever see anything that a person has in their account. We only know who has an account, and we can assist with password resets, but we can't access any of the information nor see it. And then finally, each account holder encryption key is completely different. So as an example, Michelle and I share an account, but the way she accesses it with an encryption key is different than mine. And each encryption key for each individual person that goes in, that key is the equivalent of 617 digits. So I would never say anything is hack-proof. Yeah, I can't. But if someone got into mine and could figure out a 617-digit encryption key, they'd have mine. It's not like the Equifax when it's not like one pipe that goes in a water main and then it goes into the bay. We're direct to each account. But here's what I did, because I knew that there'd be people who might say, "Gosh, I'm still not that comfortable with the web and putting all the information up there." And you don't have to put everything there that you'd be concerned with. So as an example, if I were to tell everyone today and list this stuff out in my account that, I want to be cremated, don't bury me. Don't spend the money, have a party instead. I have life insurance with Prudential and Principal Financial Group. I bank at the Park Bank in Madison, Wisconsin, where I have a checking, a savings, a money market account, and a CD. My retirement plan is with LPL Financial. I have 2 American Express cards. I have 1 Visa, and I have 1 MasterCard. The safe deposit box key is in my desk drawer on the upper right hand. That box is located at the Park Bank also. My will is in the safe deposit box. However, my attorney is a gentleman named Peter Osmond at the Borkov Osmond Law Firm in Madison, Wisconsin. And there you will also find a copy of my living will. And you see where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. So I have just told you all very real and relevant information that would make things much, much easier for my family when I died, because it gives them that roadmap. That none of that information will do any good to anyone who just heard me say all those things that I had. Mm-hmm. And so it gets the family much, much further along. So those that are concerned with putting, account numbers and passwords and things up there, don't do it. But create that digital roadmap for your family so they know where to go and how to get it done. For those that are comfortable with it, you can include every piece of information or detail that you would wish, including uploading copies of all those documents. The beauty for me is that, I have a copy of my advance directives are up there. Most of us, if I go to Europe skiing, I'm not going to take a copy of my advance directives with me. It just doesn't, fit in the ski pants pocket. But if something, God forbid, were to happen and, Michelle needed to access that information right away, simply from a computer or a smartphone, she could actually access that document, download it, and email it, immediately. So it's kind of having everything with me wherever I am at the touch of a button.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice, yeah. Yeah, I had the same question as Harry about security, and it sounds like it's pretty dang secure. But again, you can't promise, because the hackers are always learning new ways. And but
Exactly.
it's definitely the way of the future, for the accessibility there. Well, how
and
do
as
people?
I say, don't put information in that you'd be concerned about, but leave enough information that if someone got in, it wouldn't do them any good, but it would only do good for the family to be able to find it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, that's good. So how do people, once they go to your site, if they go to mylifeandwishes.com, what are their options when they get there?
Well, there's the first thing is we have a video on there. It's about 2 minutes long. I'd encourage people to watch it. It's Michelle and I telling our story of why we created this and kind of what happened to us that I think will resonate with a lot of people. We have hundreds of blogs with information in the site, things about, funeral planning and wills and life insurance and, Facebook accounts and, how to handle those kind of things. As well as we do offer a free trial so that people can go in and look around. And so on our website in the upper right-hand corner, I believe it is, there's a try it for free button. To create an account is simply just, your name, your email, you create a password. And we have a 30-day free trial. There's no credit card. You don't have to put a credit card down or anything to get started, but you can go in and look around and see whether or not the platform would be beneficial. For those that think it is, then at the end of 30 days, they'd need to enter a credit card payment. It is $79 per year or $7.95 a month, but the yearly saves you 15% or so.
So is that per person or per family, or how does that work? Because I know you had mentioned that you had a tab and Michelle had a tab.
Right. That's for two people. So it's $79 if it's just me, but if I want my spouse or partner also on that same platform, it's still just $79. It's like a 2-for-1 deal.
Okay. Great. And do
Can
they
I
have
ask a
to?
question?
Oh, go ahead, Harry.
John, is there a space limit?
Right now, our service has unlimited storage capacity.
Okay.
It may not always be that way, but for the foreseeable future, we believe it will, because we just don't think people can test the overall space that we have in there. So right now, it's unlimited.
Okay.
Did you have another question too, Harry, or?
No, I was thinking I have some videos I've taken on the cruise that are pretty big because I store them up there. Right
now, at the moment, no, you can't.
Okay.
In the first quarter of 2018, you will be able to. We don't have the media component built in just yet, but I'll share with the audience one of my biggest thoughts and benefits of the platform. We're right now building out our media storage center, which gives me now the ability, because as I said, Michelle and I have 6 children, and they're scattered around. And one of the things I always try and live by is, what would I say to my son or my daughter or my wife if I knew I wasn't going to be here tomorrow? And so now I have the ability to record a video from my smartphone or my computer and, basically leave a message, hey, Nick, if you're watching this, it's probably not really great news, but here's the things I want you to remember. You're going to be okay, and this, and kind of a little video that I can leave for very specific people for when after I'm gone. So, and my video of my cruise.
Okay. Well, cool. I think that's neat that you're adding that media concept there to allow for that. I think that's a really very, very nice touch to be able to do. So now you're on Facebook too, as Jon Braddock, and on Twitter, same with your name, and then you're also on Facebook as My Life and Wishes, along with the website My Life and Wishes. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So,
okay.
and I always encourage people. I can always be reached. I love talking to people. People have gotten back to me on my book and other things. And as I tell people, is I'm always accessible. I don't have someone that monitors my email. And my email is Jon, Jon, at mylifeandwishes.com. And if anyone has questions or they read my book and want to tell me it's wonderful, or they want to tell me it's terrible, I answer all my emails. So I'm always reachable.
Okay. And your book is called Click Here When I Die, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what can they expect in if they chose to get your book? What would they expect to find in your book?
Well, great question. Here's what they'd find. They'd find, first of all, it's a very quick read. Depending on how fast you read, it's a 2-hour read. It's full of different stories, our own real life stories of people, and it really kind of guides you through thinking through all the things that you should actually be doing. But it's not it's not a depressing book. I mean, I use humor throughout the entire book. A lot of people tell me all the time, it's like, Jon, why are you always making jokes and stuff about this? I mean, it's a serious topic. It's like, yeah, it is. I mean, but at the same time, if we're going to talk about something serious, we may as well lighten up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got a lot of humor in the book, and a quick read, and I truly believe anybody who reads the book will have their own aha moments, even as it pertains to one of my later chapters in the books talk about pets. Many people pass away and their pets outlive them, and their pets are a part of the family. So what happens to Colby the cat?
Yep. Yeah, pets are very, very much a part of the family, that's for sure. And that can be something that can be overlooked too when someone passes away. So when we're talking about all of our possessions, we have to look at living and not. So if it's grandma's pie plate, or if it's the puppy, or the horse in the barn, and you have an opinion on those things, you need to let that be known, so that people can. I spoke with a woman about 3 weeks ago, and she has one of these exotic birds, and she was my age. She's in her mid-50s, and she has one of these exotic birds that has a life expectancy of 40 years. Okay. So she already knows that likely that bird is going to outlive her. And apparently it's pretty expensive to maintain, the bird, with veterinary and that kind of stuff. So she's made provision within her will for whoever, takes the bird. There's, insurance money that would go to that person to help cover it. The biggest problem is she can't find anybody that's willing to take this obnoxious, bird that talks back. Oh gosh, yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough because what we love and think is precious, not everyone else does. And when you're dealing with something that's living and breathing, it's a lot different than a couch, or a picture on the wall that you can go on vacation and not have to worry. And is it going to cost you any more money to have? So those are all good points. Anything else that you wanted to add, Jon, or any other questions, Harry, that you might have for Jon?
No, I think it's a good concept, Lori, that we don't think about keeping all these things in one location, and I think this is a great idea.
Mhm. Yeah, I do too. I like the idea. I just think of even when I was managing my folk stuff, I ended up with, oh gosh, I can't even tell you how many 3-inch or 3-ring binders that were probably 2 to 3 inches a piece, and having all their documentation in there, and it would just be so nice to kind of be more paperless, where it wouldn't have to take up so much room, but yet you knew that you still had access to it all, and you could organize it a little easier too, which I find nice as well, with that. And it doesn't have to be a burden in terms of transferring. You got to pick it all up and go get it. It's just having a code and an access code to get into it to see where everything is at. Does it make kind of a table of contents at all, or does everybody kind of make up their own file systems for saving things? How does that work, Jon?
Nope, it's all laid out for you under clearly marked sections for documents, for online presence and websites and everything else. So there's drop downs and tabs and very, very well laid out.
Okay.
I guess my message to people would really be this: whether you use our service or not, it doesn't matter to me. My purpose is to get people to really think about it, take the steps necessary today while you can to plan these things out. It's not that hard. It takes a little time, but do it a piece at a time. Before you know it, you're completely organized. Then make sure somebody knows where it all is.
Yep.
Give them the roadmap.
Yeah, that last step's real critical.
Yeah. I can plan this all out and do everything, but if I don't let somebody know how to get it when the time comes,
it doesn't do much
good. I haven't changed the experience for them. What I want for my family is when I pass is for them to be able to experience the sadness and the grief without the anger, frustration, confusion, and stress, and know that Dad's last final loving gift was to make sure I made things as easy as possible for them. And I want people to do the exact same thing across the world. No matter how you do it, just do it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jon. I really appreciate you taking the time with us. And Harry, I always appreciate you co-hosting with me. So thank you both for that. Again, we just got through talking with Jon Braddock. And you can go to his website, mylifeandwishes.com, mylifeandwishes.com. You can also find him on Facebook under My Life and Wishes, or under Jon, and that's Jon Braddock, or on Twitter. As far as wrapping up here, again, I just want to say our dementia-friendly cruise was absolutely amazing. All of our radio shows here are archived, so we've got over 400 shows you can go back and look and listen to anytime. Same with our Dementia Chats interviews. Those you can find on alzheimerspeaks.com. And go to our initiatives and projects page. You'll be able to find all of those there. They're about an hour apiece. And our experts all have dementia. You can also access the new Care to Plan Dementia Resource Directory on Alzheimer's Speaks. It's now being beta tested, but you can check that out. And last, I just want to, again, give a shout out to the American Senior Magazine and also Purple Table Reservations, which is a new way to go out and have fun and get your needs met in a subtle, professional way. with staff that is trained in various restaurants. So check them out. They're just starting to grow, but we'll be seeing more of them around the country. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye now.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebesti here, host of Retire Repurposed. This podcast is dedicated to help people transition into fulfilling and purposeful retirements. Retirement is a big life change. In fact, the two most dangerous years of a person's life are the year they were born and the year they retire. Few people could just flip the switch from working a career 30 or 40 plus years, retiring on Friday without methodical steps to living what we call a repurposed retirement. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.